Welcome to the Yellowjackets Hive, presented by cordcutting.com. I'm Media Melanie here with,
And I'm Emily.
and today's video is very exciting. We have decided to recap and rate the impact of each death we've seen so far on Yellowjackets from season 1 and season 2.
Yes.
So, Emily, are you ready to rate these deaths on a Yellowjackets trauma scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most traumatic and impactful, 1 being the least?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, we're going to go chronologically. So we are going to start with Pit Girl. Of course, we saw Pit Girl die in the pilot, season 1, episode 1. Emily, what's your rating on Pit Girl?
I would give her a 6 because that was our introduction to the series as a whole and one of the biggest mysteries that we have about the entire show.
We don't know who it is yet, of course, but we imagine it will come into play more and maybe that rating will change. But for now, we're going to give Pit Girl a 6. We have the flight victims from Flight 2525, notably Rachel and Coach Martinez. Emily, what do you rate those deaths?
I would give those about a 3. While watching Coach fall from the tree was kind of traumatic, their deaths were a result of the plane crash. So they're not really like super instrumental to the actual plot going forward, after effect of what happened to them.
I think a 3 is fair, especially because we didn't really have that connection with those characters. However, of course, Coach Martinez is Travis and Javi's dad, so that gives us a little more connection. However, we didn't really get to know him. So I do think a 3 for the flight victims in general sounds like a pretty good impact rating on the Yellowjackets trauma scale. Of course, trauma is one of the themes woven throughout the entire series, so trauma fits in perfectly. And with that, our next death was adult Travis, who we saw die in episode 3 of season 1. Emily, what do you rate Travis's death?
Travis, I have to go with the 7. It sends Natalie on a wild goose chase to find out who killed him, and it kind of sends her into like a little bit of a spiral. Like, she struggles so much after learning that he died, and it just like sets off a chain of events for the whole series.
It sure does. And of course, we revisit Travis's death more in season 2. We get more context about it from Lottie, even though we don't really believe a word she's saying about it. So I think we'll still learn maybe more impact from Travis's death if we learn more about the circumstances and if Lottie was or was not telling the truth. But solid 7 for adult Travis. Yes. Next up, Laura Lee, who perished tragically in the fate of an airplane crash in episode 8 of season 1. What's the rating, Emily?
An 8. This one's an 8. Yeah. She was their last attempt that we've seen like so far in the series of them getting help and getting out of there. Like, she took it upon herself to fly the plane and try to get help for everybody. And with her death, like, the idea of rescue also died along with her. Like, none of them were thinking about going to get help again after that happened. I mean, they literally watched her blow up in front of them.
They sure did. And of course, she was very religious and had this faith aspect about her. And in a way, the faith was lost with the death of Laura Lee. And of course, Leonard, her teddy bear. Next up is an adult timeline death. Adam Martin, who of course perished in episode 9 of season 1 at the hands of Shauna Sadecki. Emily, what's the rating?
This one I have to go with another 7. A lot of what we see happen in season 2 was set in motion by his death. So I think it was pretty important in the grand scheme of things. It leads all the adult Yellowjackets, specifically Shauna, since she's the one that actually killed him, in a lot of really hot water. And I think it's still possible that we could see like future repercussions of his death, like even going forward, more so in the storyline, even though it's all wrapped up like we think, maybe it's not all wrapped up.
Maybe it's not. I mean, there could be more fallout from Saracusa and the Walter situation. So that rating of Adam's death might change, but I think a 7 is right where he needs to be. Next up, Jessica Roberts, episode 10, season 1, dies at the hands of Misty. What do we rate her death?
I'd give it a 5. It wasn't really instrumental in the plot of the show itself, but like you just said, Misty did kill her. And I also kind of feel that Ty is a little bit responsible for her death too, because Ty is the one that hired her to look into all the other Yellowjackets. And if Ty never hired her, Misty may have never come into contact with her and she would very much still be alive.
There was a death in the finale of season 1, episode 10. Poor Biscuit. What are we rating Biscuit's death?
Biscuit, I'm giving a 4. It was obviously very sad. No one wants to see anything bad happen to an animal, but it wasn't like overall didn't affect the plot, wasn't instrumental. Was used to kind of show Ty's difficulties with entering this fugue-like state that we see her going in and out of, and it was kind of like our introduction into that part of her personality. But other than that, I don't really think it served a whole lot of purpose. And I put him dying in episode 10 because that's when we had confirmation that he was dead. He could have died before then, but I mean, we saw his head on that altar in the episode, so
We sure
very
did.
much dead.
Definitely a big shock factor, but
Yes.
I don't know that the shock factor translates on the Yellowjackets trauma impact scale. So I
Yeah.
do think it's fair keeping Biscuit's death at a 4. And then again, TBD with Steve in season 2. Steve may be another dog goner if you like what I
Mm.
did there. So we'll see what happens. But RIP Biscuit. And
Yeah.
on to the next, the big one from season 1 in episode 10. Jackie Taylor, RIP. Emily, this is a big rating on the trauma scale.
Yeah, this one's a 10 for me. It I think overall, I think her death had the most impact on the series as a whole so far. With her death, a lot died with her. Like she was their last tie to their life back home. She was trying to do things to make them not forget their home by having doom coming, doing the seance, like doing things to try to keep them all in the mindset of we're a team, like we're still people, even though we're stranded in the middle of nowhere. But once she's gone, like all that goes out the window.
Straight out the window, and it really starts their descent into madness and
Yeah.
also into cannibalism. So,
Yeah.
solid 10 for Jackie's death. Of course, she even lived on as a ghost, which puts our rating solid at that 10 again because we get to see her in the afterlife and the impact she's
Mhm.
had on the entire group. So,
Yeah.
Jackie's death, RIP Jackie, you are a 10 even in the afterlife. Next up, season 2 deaths, Crystal the Pistol, aka Kristin, and she perished in episode 5 of season 2. She kicked the bucket way too soon over shit cliff. Emily, what are we rating Crystal's death?
I'm giving her a 5. She wasn't really a major player in the Yellowjackets universe, but she was used as a tool for us to see more of Misty and further Misty's plot, which makes her somewhat important, but not as important as somebody like Jackie.
That's right. And of course, they still have not recovered Crystal's body despite
Yes.
mounting this, Misty mounting that search, trying to look under the snow. It's still up in the air. Did they not dig deep enough? Did her body get taken by a predator? Is there something else at play here? So for now, we'll keep Crystal's death at a 5. I think that's fair. But as with Yellowjackets and trauma, the trauma scale rating could change depending on if we maybe get Ghost Crystal or if her death somehow does impact the storyline more once we get to season 3.
Yeah. I'm kind of hoping that they revisit it a little bit and they give us some resolution to what happened to her.
That's right. She was the only one that knew about the black box, and maybe
Yeah.
somehow the black box will come back into play, or maybe that secret died along with her. Emily, the next death from season 2,
Hmm.
Javi, episode 8 of season 2. Where are you ranking Javi's death on the Yellowjackets trauma scale?
I'm gonna go with a 9 for this one. His death marks the beginning of the group killing for the purpose of food. And his death wasn't intentional. He wasn't the one that was intended to die, but nobody stepped in to save him. Natalie tried, but Natalie also came to the realization that if it wasn't him, it was going to be her. And in that moment, that made her stop. Like Misty pulled her and she's like, they're going to get you if you save him. Like they will kill you. And the look on her face like broke my heart because that stuck with her forever.
Especially because Javi had tried to help her and go
Yeah.
show her where he was hiding. And then also seeing the fallout from that, the impact and major trauma, especially on Travis, who had to
Yeah.
eat his brother, took a big old bite of his raw ass whole heart.
Yep.
And of course, that trauma is going to live on long for Travis's character, who we know dies in the present day. We've already rated him. But yeah, Javi's death was a real killer. It was ice cold, and I
Yeah.
think a 9 is fair. I mean, maybe even a 9.5. Losing Javi was so sad, especially
Yeah.
after we got him back. So it's almost like we lost him twice.
Yep.
On to a less impactful death from season 2. Um, Kevyn Tan, who perished in episode 9 of season 2 at the hands of Walter Tattersall. Emily, what are we rating Kevyn Tan's death?
For this one, I went with a 2. While I know the both of us really loved Kevyn Tan and his character, his death, again, was not like he was disposable. We have a few issues with the way that Walter wrapped up his death in a neat little bow.
Just a few.
But yeah, but overall, it didn't really mean a whole lot to the story going forward. I will say that we hoped that it would be Saracusa over Kevyn Tan if we lost a police officer.
Would have loved it to be Saracusa instead, and I would have rated his death on a trauma scale rating like a -5 because good fucking riddance as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I think Kevyn lower on the trauma impact scale is fair.
Yeah.
Of course, Nat's already gone, so Nat's not going to be feeling any of that impact.
Yeah.
Whereas if she was still alive, perhaps it could have been slightly different because she would
Yeah.
have had, something to mourn. But since she was
I
already
agree.
dead,
I would
the
have given it a
impact.
higher score if she would have found out about it. If she would have somehow known that he died, his score probably would have been a little higher for me.
None of the other characters really had that same connection with him either. So
No.
there's not a lot to mourn there. Of course, another character death, too bad, but not one of the most notable, I would say.
Yeah.
But one of the most notable, and the way that they ended that season 2 was the death of Natalie in the adult timeline.
Mhm.
And this is a tough one to rate, Emily. What is
Yeah.
your sentiment on the Nat death in the Yellowjackets trauma scale?
For me at this point, I honestly don't know. I rated it as undetermined because we have yet to find out exactly how this is going to impact all of the other adult Yellow Jackets going forward. We know it's going to have a tremendous impact. If I were to rate it, I would give it like a 9 or a 10 because it's high on that scale. But
Yes.
I feel like at this point, it's still too early to really know how it's going to affect the storyline going forward. Like, will we meet another adult Yellow Jacket because she's gone?
And really, Misty, I think, is the one who's going to, of course,
Yes.
feel this impact the most. So for Misty, I would say Nat's death is going to be off the scale because
Oh, yeah.
Nat has been someone that she's managed to connect with, one of the few people that she felt a connection with in the adult timeline
Yeah.
specifically. So I think there's going to be a lot of fallout for it. And you're right, it is hard to rank because we don't know what the impact will be. Nat's death, again, we've talked about it before. We did not love the manner in which she died. We do not
No.
love the legacy of her death itself. So it was a tough death to swallow, maybe one of
Yeah.
the hardest. Would you
Yeah.
say that was the hardest death for you to process in the series, Emily, or would you say it was somebody else?
No, I would go with her just because of the reasons that you just stated. It was so sad to see her like actually genuinely work on herself right before that happened to her. She seemed to be turning a new leaf, really searching for like forgiveness for herself. And when she died, like you very clearly saw that she never found that. And that just like broke my heart. When she saw Javi, it just broke me. Like that was so sad.
Same, same. I still think it was a missed opportunity not
Yeah.
seeing Travis on that plane. So they could
Another
have
thing. Yep.
somehow connected in the afterlife. But yeah, her death was definitely tough. For me, I would say a tie between Nat and Javi.
Yeah.
I died a small death when Javi went through that ice, when Van had that look on her face,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
when nobody saved him, when he tried to help Nat. Of course, we had the chance to speak with Luciano in an interview after Javi came back in season 2, and he was just the sweetest. We loved him as Javi, and I'm just super bummed for his character. I'm sad that Travis isn't going to have a brother anymore,
Yeah.
and that one hit me pretty hard too. So
Yeah. That
yes.
was really hard to swallow just because, like you said, we had just gotten him back and we were all so excited to see him back in the series and watch what was going to happen. I thought that meant maybe he would survive until adulthood.
So it's a pretty significant amount of deaths. Of course, we've rated them
Yeah.
on our perceived Yellow Jackets trauma scale. And what we would really like to see from all of you is to drop your ratings for each death. How would
Yeah.
you rate them on the Yellowjackets trauma scale on a scale of 1 to 10? We are dying to know who is the most impactful character death for you.
Do you disagree or agree with the ratings that we gave? And if you don't, why don't you agree? I would love to know.
Of course, there's room for more deaths in season 3. Simone, I mean, who knows if she's going to survive? Steve,
Yeah.
as we mentioned, TBD. And I mean, there's the potential for lots more deaths, of course, in the teen timeline. Are they going to start killing again? Are we going to find out who Pit Girl is? So many questions, Emily. So many
Yeah.
questions. We're going to keep coming out with lots more content. So be sure that you are subscribed to Cord Cutting on YouTube. They're youtube.com/@cordcutting and our Hive Hub page. Visit it, bookmark it, cordcutting.com/yellowjackets-hive. You do not want to miss a buzz of our exclusive content. So we've got lots of fun stuff this month. We have an interview with one of the special effects guys who worked on the Pit Girl set build, oversaw that. Cannot wait to speak with him about his experience on set. It's going to be awesome, along with lots of other fun stuff and articles on our Cord Cutting Hive Hub page. So go check it out. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back soon.
Yes. So until we spill again.